Oh, here comes somebody.
Hey, Dragica.
Morning.
Hello.
So these are the the ones I don't know if you can see this mic. So this is what I had made for ear protection, and there is this filter that slides in here at the top, right, where you can have I think it's 20 dB reduction of the ambient noise. The nice thing about this filter, though, is that it does it in a uniform fashion for all the frequencies. So it's
it's not muffled.
Yes, it's as if you just turn the volume knob down, which is really nice when you go to a gig. And they make these things. Etymologic Research allows you to use these for ear protection. If you go to a certified center and have this hole here, instead of having a filter, actually slot in your in-ear monitors in there. So you can basically reuse the molds because they're quite expensive to make, and so that's probably a win-win situation because they're also easier to stand in your ears.
Sure.
It doesn't not as much friction, and the seal is better.
Well, and they'd be less likely to just fall out.
Yeah. Actually, they're very difficult to take out once they're in. It's So yeah. But when I only use in-ears for live gigs, playing at home, I use regular. I use my Bowers and Wilkins.
Well, I think I'll wander into it. There's a store downtown that sells both the ones you recommended and the Sennheisers.
Yes.
So I'll have a look at those.
Yeah. Actually, after that that little thread on Google Plus, I took my Sennheisers out again last night, and did like half an hour of comparing, and I'd say that the sound is more detailed with the Sennheisers, but it's also colder, meaning that it kind of started hurting my ears after a little while, and as I tried to explain, also it's like there is some feeling missing. The same things that I was playing with the Sennheiser just sounded good to me without actually touching my inner self. While when I switched to the Bowers and Wilkins, I started playing, and then after a couple of minutes, kind of close your eyes and go into it. I don't know. It's something very subjective, which is very difficult to actually judge elsewhere. So I think that's probably why I bought so many headphones over the years.
Yeah, I had a pair of the Sennheisers for a while, years ago, and didn't care for them. And you're fairly describing my experience with them. And actually, I'd use my AKG, which I love, if I could get an adapter appropriate for the back of the Eigenharp.
Oh.
I haven't found them. They only have the large jack on them?
Yes. Well, I did that with another pair of headphones. I just snipped it off at the end and soldered another plug on it. If you're feeling adventurous.
That would work.
Well, you have to be careful. I don't know how old your AKGs are, but it seems maybe I'm just total neophyte in terms of soldering or whatnot. But I found that there is this weird cables that they use now in headphones that is not any kind of metal. It looks like plastic. And
it's weird stuff. It's sort of oxygen-free copper or something.
I don't know what it is, but apparently you have to solder it totally differently. I don't know how. So
nope.
Yes.
I have two red squirrels having a battle over some birdseed. Sorry.
Well,
they're vicious with each other. Sorry. I'm just sitting by the window here, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I've got my bird over there and a small kitten over there who has just had surgery and had to dig up the actual the cage of my dog so that she would have room to have some space around her. But a cat in a cage is a bit weird. It always looks strange.
So on a separate front, I did get two new I inadvertently got 2 new libraries for Contact from Bella D. I ordered one, and after about a month, when I hadn't heard back from them, I sent them an email saying, "Hello, are you still there?" And they apologized and mailed me a second one.
Oh, that's cool. And which sample libraries are they? Nope. Looks like Mike froze.
Yeah. Connection problem.
So how are you, Dragica?
Fine.
Yeah, you've been traveling a bit. I've seen some pictures of gamers conference and stuff like that.
Yeah, the game stuff is in Zurich. That's that was just the organizing, which was why last Monday I couldn't, be in picture because I had to prepare the stuff. But yeah, there was a lot of traveling in January. There will be a lot of traveling around probably later on.
Are you going to Music Messe again?
Probably not.
Okay.
I don't know. There is nothing I want to look at. I actually am pretty happy with my Eigenharp, and I don't want new hardware. If there is any exciting hardware, it will come my way anyway. Yes. Software you can't look at there anyway.
Yes.
So the only thing I really found interesting, it was interesting for the first time to see how big it was, and all the violins they have, and all the cellos, and all the stuff.
Yes.
It was interesting. The only really thing that was interesting was the Eigenharp and Schneidersladen. And I'm in Berlin quite often, so I can go to Schneidersladen whenever I want.
Yes.
And violins are very interesting, but not really my kind of instrument.
Well, you have to be very dedicated to learn them. That's, electric violin can sound very nice, though. It's, Yes. So yeah, I'll be going again this year. Very excited that Steinberg is agreed again to do something together. So
that's cool. Fun.
Yeah.
They pay your expenses too?
They pay the entrance for the fair, and then we cover the rest. It's only 2 days, so it's really not that much.
Yeah.
I just booked the hotel and the train. I'm crossing my fingers that the hotel actually looks like the pictures.
Yeah.
It's always the same problem, huh? Is it?
I'm sure it did once.
Yes.
Yeah, with Photoshop you can't be even sure of that.
No, that's true.
Last year I had a nice one, actually. It was pretty cheap, and I was pretty anxious too, because it was in the middle of what I knew was the slightly
the red light
CDR.
district.
Yeah. And I thought, let's see how this works. But it was pretty nice. It was roomy, it was clean, and there was no problem. So I was pleasantly surprised.
So yes, well, the comments on the one that I picked seem to be okay. So it's already better than comments on the rest where everyone says it's horrible, don't go there. It's already some kind of filter.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what's new?
Well, I was starting to go on about
the sample library.
So they threw in a second one for nothing because they were being obnoxious. The one I actually ordered is called Sampled Landscapes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got probably about 25 or so simple samples. Like they're just, there's a bunch of female voices, there's a bunch of sound design things like wind, war drums. There's a few instruments from their other packs, although they're simple. But then they put them in multis, and they sort of sound design them into a landscape, like Celtic Visions, and was one of them that I quite like. Jerusalem is another one that has a few ethnic instruments and soundscapes wrapped around it. And they're controlled either by by CC2, like breath control or expression or both, and velocity switching. And They're not terribly melodic, but they're quite interesting. I mean, I'd be happy to...
They seem quite expensive.
Everything they make seems to be like $200.
Yeah.
So the other one that I actually got is probably of more interest to more people. It's Spiritual Wind, and it's a bunch of ethnic instruments, reed and blown instruments. Mm-hmm. They're I don't think it's very good value particularly. There's I think about 8 instruments, Turkish clarinet, a number of ethnic flutes, but they sound wonderful. And they're reasonably responsive. Mm-hmm. They do use key switching, but it's well, actually, it has a feature I hadn't seen before. It has a default, and it only key switches away from the default while you push the key switch.
And then it goes back to the default.
Yeah, which is actually nicer than having to switch back and forth, or easier. But you wouldn't really need to use it unless you wanted some of the unique ethnic sort of trills at the first or tie-offs notes. If you're just playing the instrument, they're just straightforward instruments.
Cool.
So I mean, I could do a hangout on that at some point if somebody wanted.
Mm-hmm. I'm getting a bit out of the instrument selection for the time being. Don't really want to be tempted into something else again.
Yeah, I immediately stopped playing for 3 days while I played with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been building the factory setups for 2.0.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot of work. The alpha factory setups are pretty big.
Yeah, and I guess they took quite a while in the first place, didn't they?
Yes. Yeah. Well, it was one thing that there's not there yet in Workbench is copy paste. So starting to realize that is really missing. But we're not going to add it, and we don't have time for the 2.0 release. But building a setup like the alpha factory setups, there's a lot of copy paste going on. So I guess I'm stress testing all the features over and over again.
Now, and I guess that implies that the setups in Workbench aren't... Did I hear somebody say they were going to be converted to XML?
We're planning on doing that, yeah.
Because that would also have made your task easier, right?
Yes and no, because one of the purposes of rebuilding the factory setups is making sure that Workbench is adequate for building those setups. So drilling down into the actual XML, which isn't there, but if it would be there, would be kind of cheating, because it wouldn't really be a full circle test of the functionalities of Workbench, making sure. So also I can't use any bel canto in the commander or through scripts. It's all Workbench, and then make note of everything that's a bit awkward or that needs work, and try to fix those that are easy to fix for 2.0, and then schedule out the rest for later releases.
Yeah, that's a worthwhile exercise, I guess. I'm glad you're doing it. Or perhaps I'm just glad I'm not. Yeah.
Well, we have to do it.
Yeah, I mean it's testing the stuff.
Yeah, but I'm pleasantly surprised. I haven't had anything major. I think I'm 80% through the alpha setup now, and it's looking good.
Yeah. But you find out what's missing. That's good too.
Yes, it's important. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you know. Now you have you know that there should probably one day there should be copy paste in there. So
it's planned actually. It's coming for 2.1, and one thing I'm personally really frustrated about is there is no grid. And I like things to be laid out beautifully, and to do that now is like, yes, this is right.
So there will also be an alignment feature in the future.
I can't decide about that. But I think there will have to be, because everyone wants things that are related to line up somehow. So.
Yeah. There is, I don't know now in which software, but there is this thing that's not really an alignment feature, but there is some kind of guideline feature. When you have one widget coming to the other widget, it gives a guideline when they are lined up, so that you can just, Yeah,
most Apple design things work like that.
Yeah. Which I think is much nicer than having an align like having to
well, that works.
To click something and click something and then have it aligned.
That works if you work like that, but if you want to vertically lay out things with even spacing, for example, then it works. What typically happens is it detects when you've got two elements beneath each other, and the third one kind of has this automatic guidelines at the same distance of the spacing in between. Mm-hmm. But then it kind of starts then you have to start adding other features, because you might want that spacing to increase or decrease, but you can already have 20 of those in the middle. So then you'll have to do stuff like space things out automatically, vertically, and things like that. So I don't know how far we'll go into this. It is not Illustrator, so we're not going to try to duplicate all the functionalities of a package.
Please don't do that.
So it's kind of how much bloat are we going to add, and how much aren't we going to add? The feature you were talking about is really interesting, because I like that a lot. Yeah. On the other hand, if you want to work, if you want to align things in more ways than just those guidelines, then you always have to add other features also. While a grid kind of gives you one subdivision that you can use to lay out your stuff with, and if it snaps to it, it snaps to it. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Yeah. So it kind of depends. I don't know. We still have to discuss it. I don't know. There's probably quite a lot of other approaches also that could work.
Yeah, it probably depends on what you can find in the public domain in terms of libraries too.
No, this is something that we'll probably just implement. It's really easy to implement, actually. It's basically not adding too much bloat to the functionalities of the user interface, which is not it's not a vector drawing package. It's
Illustrator is most definitely too complicated. So, I mean, it's one of the programs you can't sit down and just do. You have to somehow get all this.
So it's making sure that balance is right, and not put too much emphasis on the actual. The visual aspect is important, but it's not. It's the most important part is wiring things up and being able to easily edit properties and group them together and stuff like that.
The visual part is important for hints.
Yes.
It gives you hints. So if things are aligned, they probably have some kind of relation to each other,
yes.
which is why the visual is needed. But it shouldn't be like
exactly.
Millimeter work is probably not what's needed.
So but I think that will probably add something like that, because it is something that you need assistance with. Somewhere or another.
How about color?
I've already asked for that, and the problem with that then is that do you really want to manage the color of each individual agent? So what I personally was thinking of is it might be interesting to set up some color rules, which is saying those types of agents, I always want them colored like that. And those types of connections, I always want them colored like that. Instead of saying that particular connection has that color and that particular connection has that color, because once you're done with a setup like Alpha 1, you have like 3,000 connections. And
I thought more like a label, like there is always this one agent you may want to see. At first glance, this is because this is the one you will have to change. So more like the labels you have in the file manager from Apple. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
8 colors thingy, just to color code your agents to say, okay, this is I'm putting everything together, but this agent I will have to look after. Will have to maybe, this is where I want to do my detail work, or this is where I want to have some kind of changes or something like this. Just like a clue to see which agent you still want to work on, or which agent you think is important for the setup.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be a lot of them. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing of EigenD, is that a lot of agents work together to do the final work, and you'll probably be fine-tuning things along the chain and finding them and then going back, and having just one agent is probably not going to work. But
yeah, so the general question is really exactly what you're talking about, isn't it, Gert? How do you depict groupings of things sort of dynamically, so that when you find yourself pointing at something that is part of a flow, how do you highlight the rest of the flow so that it's easily discovered and traversed?
So Dragica, something that you already can do, and that we are also using, is you know that you can collapse and expand agents. That's a good way of indicating an expanded agent is something you're still wiring up and still really working on, while a collapsed one you're finished with. And it remembers that state, and it visually shows it very clearly also. It's like, okay, I'm working on the details exactly as you said, I'm doing detailed work, and not just leaving it there to be part of the setup as it is. So that's... It's
just whenever I do something like this, I start using colors immediately. It's just because it's for me, it's also with my notes and everything. I start to use colors. That's what I mean. I see it if nobody else needs something like this. I see that's okay. If there isn't, it isn't there. But for me, it's something I immediately use. I immediately try to put some color in there.
Right.
I mean, the first thing I did with Max MSP was coloring my stuff. Not everything. Sorry. If you color everything, naturally color loses. But just highlighting this thing or this thing.
Yeah, the thing to bear in mind, that what we try to do also with Workbench is to provide visibility to something that you don't know. And you might have a particular way of looking at it, and someone else might have a particular way of looking at it. But imagine that I built a setup with 300 agents, and I color-coded in a way that you absolutely hate. And I share the setup with you, and you get the setup, and you just can't look at it because it's horrible. Or you might be colorblind. You might not be able to distinguish red from green. I think that in that way, color is maybe something much more personal, and being able to set up in your preferences which types of agents you want to be colored in a certain way would kind of make setups transferable, and you'll be able to much more easily use colors to actually understand the setup that you don't know yet, because you can visually follow the relationships thanks to the coloring.
Yeah, but I thought, not three colors. 3 colors would be a problem. I mean, like, you give 8 colors.
Right.
8 fixed colors.
Right, but the problem is, exactly as I said, even with 8 fixed colors, if I personally, I'm probably totally the opposite from you. If I see something that's being colored with 8 colors, I'll just close the document and never work on it anymore, because it's just too much. So I think that is something very personal for people. And color blindness, you don't have to neglect that either. So
yeah. I see your point. Mine is just, I imagine, I make a setup, yeah, and in the setups there's 3 agents which are really important because that's where the setup is, and now I can maybe color them red to say, okay, that's the 3 agents you have to look at. If you have 300 agents, how do you tell the other person which agents to look at? Well, I mean, you have to take the name, and the other person has to sift through 300.
That's the exact point that I'm making. You don't know what the agents the other person wants to look at.
Yeah, but if you build a setup, let's say, and you have one Sund, and you have the one the one agent of the synth. That's the one where most things happen.
That's going to be a very trivial setup with probably just 10 agents on the screen.
Yeah, I think the answer to that is rigs.
Yes,
it's this fractal level of looking at things.
So yeah, I was going to add. I was going to get into that. So you will be using rigs to organize things anyway.
I really like that whole idea of making the view. Well, I'll use the word fractal, but having different levels of complexity that you drill down into, and it's almost unfortunate that rigs got called rigs. I don't know what else you'd call them. That's a perfectly good name. But one of their main functions isn't just to isolate a piece, but to organize the level of complexity of the perspective that you're taking.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Can you put a rig in a rig?
Yes.
Okay.
Something that is also going to be added into that one is to be able to take existing agents and put them in a rig and have the connections being, preserved. Because currently you can't do that. Agents that are there can't be grouped together and create a new rig out of it. It's going to be really needed to be able to work with rigs comfortably.
Yeah, so something like the ability to draw a circle around a bunch of things or select a bunch of things and say, that should be a rig.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's okay to, if you know what you're doing, you can say, okay, I will need these rigs and I'll put them in there. But if you're kind of dynamically building out a setup, once you say, oh no, I've got too many stuff on my screen, now I want to organize this, then you'll have to be able to just take that and put it in a rig instead of saying, okay, I'm going to remove everything, create a rig, and put everything back into the rig. So, but
actually, I think that was almost one of my first pieces of feedback when it was in pre-release.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, wait a minute, you have to be able to actually do this.
Yes, so that is also one of the features that will be in 2.1. But you see, Dragita, to get back to your topic, the problem is that, we all disagree in the same way as you and I disagree. So John doesn't agree with me, and Jim doesn't agree with John about the color coding.
It's just
I know your point. I understand your point. It's a valid point.
I have seen quite a lot of Max MSP stuff,
right,
which
but
has patches.
We're not going to do Max
patches.
MSP.
Yeah, patches in patches in patches, which is the rig thingy, and sometimes it really helps if there is a color.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah.
I guess the thing is, if you... Okay, so this is the guy who absolutely hates Max speaking, right? But if your goal is to make a Max patch that somebody simply uses, and the color coding is for you, then there isn't a problem, right? But if you're expecting to have a community of people who share not just here's a patch, use it, but here's a piece of a patch integrated into yours, then I think Geert has a valid point, and actually it would impact you as well, which is you'd end up getting almost every patch rig that you'd end up getting would be color-coded in a way that if it doesn't matter whether you liked it or not, it would simply be different than your color coding choices.
Yeah, so but that's not what's happening.
It's not what's happening.
Look, I can only use Max because it's. I could also use PD, but Max has one of the advantages. It uses Juice to the old version, the one I have. And I have seen quite a lot of these things, and you can actually put every color you want in there, but people don't do that. I don't have crazy colored patches. I do have normal colored patches where sometimes, not always, sometimes color is used as to say, hey, here is that widget, that thingy is what you want to look at. So, I use Max MSP here because it is in visual complexity similar to what your Eigen workbench will be, because it's a complex visual thingy with a flow stuff. So that's why I use Max MSP, because it's there already, and I even don't want to have free color. It's just I have made the experience that sometimes it really helps if you see, oh, this is the point.
Right, but maybe the point that I'm making is maybe that's not the best approach. I'm not sure that I've got the solution to it, but the way of working, there are a lot of things that Max does. That's maybe not maybe not the best way of doing things. It's maybe not the most musical way. It's not maybe there's a whole bunch of things that might be improved upon. It's not because you're used to working like that in Max that there couldn't be another approach in Workbench that also suits what you're asking for, and while still enabling other approaches, like I just said, being able to more easily. This is something that I'm often struggling with. You open the setup and okay, how is everything connected? And everything being colored in the same way kind of makes this harder to understand, because there are different chains of responsibilities, and you always know that you're looking for. Once the building blocks are very similar in Eigen all the time. You're kind of looking for the scalars. You're kind of looking for these important things, and they are important to find because you will probably be working off of that to kind of follow the chain of responsibility, and being able to discover that much more easily is also something that needs attention. The thing is, maybe both can be combined, maybe not. Maybe coloring custom, as you said, will be added, and maybe it is a good approach, but I'm not sure that it's the only approach to do what you're asking for.
If you find something else, it's okay too. It's just I like to have sometimes stuff colored.
Mm-hmm.
If I went away and came back, it's because I got a "we can't connect to our server" message, so my apologies.
Yes, we saw everything you did in that little lapse of time. No, just kidding. It was just black.
It wasn't intentional.
So yes, but as I said, we're not in agreement inside Eigen Labs even. So it will take a while to take a bit of discussion to get things like that ironed out.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't expect that things work like I suggest that it works. But now I have talked to you, and you have maybe an idea how to do that, and then maybe one day you will all find a solution to that.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works, isn't it?
Yeah.
After lots of discussions, something will emerge.
So have you started coding a bit already after the developers conference?
Yes, I have. I have tried to work on the wavetable stuff. I'm further along, but the game space stuff did come into it because I had to code for that too, and yeah. So there is only so much coding I can do.
Yeah,
but what I've also found out that actually I need to do more music stuff. So I'm now into reading Microsound from Curtis Rhodes, which I think is very interesting because I want to somehow get this stuff done too. I don't know yet how, this writing my own synthesizer stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because I saw with the wavetable stuff, all the C++, Python stuff is more or less clear, but if I don't know what I'm doing at all, I can't program it.
Mm-hmm.
So I should have a clear thing in my head what I want to do with that stuff.
Yes.
And so programming, before I can program, I should probably get a clear idea of what I want to do with the stuff.
What, you need requirements in order to code? I don't understand that.
Nobody does that. Just make it up as you go along.
Yeah.
That's what Gert does, I understand. Which leads me to a question. All the things that are popping up from place to place, the notator, the view meter, and stuff like that, do they end up in the releases?
They
of
might
workbench?
eventually. So we've got
Okay, other than that, you have to go find them, right?
well, we've got a contrib Git repository where people can just add themselves to and have their project being part of the collection of contributed Eigen agents. And then the plan is that once things stabilize, we will pull them out from contrib at a certain snapshot of it and put that back into the open source version of Eigen and have it shipped with the next release. And then update it periodically as changes happen to the contrib library. So, but there's not that much really useful yet. So yes, but I think in a couple of weeks, months, we'll start doing that, and then every couple of months update those.
You're starting to sound like John. Real soon now.
I didn't say that.
No, I know you didn't. I said that.
No, it's just seeing. I can already see someone wanting, for example, the noise generator, which is finished and working, and the VU meter, which is finished and working. That's why I said a couple of weeks, because having those pulled back in would actually be quite interesting. So yes, so that's the approach anyway. That's the way it's going to happen.
No, that's great.
And it doesn't actually. So each developer, or if you're able to compile code, it's very easy to build a binary package now from an agent that's been coded by someone, or someone can just give you a binary package, just one line to type, and they can give you a package that you can install. So
as you did.
Yeah. So that's going to be another distribution mechanism. And then the third one is once people start writing agents that are commercially interesting and they want to sell them, then we'll open up a new section in the Eigen Labs web store with commercial agents people can buy. So, or we might be writing some. I don't know.
Yeah. We seem to be just we three today. Is this right?
Yes, the attendance is getting less and less over the months.
Well, Antonio's been quiet for a couple of weeks now. He must be busy.
I think he's working on a new production. So
yeah. And not Rob isn't here today. That's a new thing.
Yeah. I guess he's kind of asked all the questions he had.
And now he has to jump in. Now it's now or never.
Did you go to Larry's hangout on Wednesday?
Only Duncan went.
Okay. Yeah.
It's sort of an awkward time for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try and make it this week.
That's what I keep saying every week also, and then I just fell asleep in the couch and wake up at.
Maybe I should put it in. I should put it in the calendar. I always forget. Then I'm in my pajamas, and then I see it. And being a hangout, it's not easy if you're in your pajama.
There are quite a few people hovering around in the wings with an interest in Eigenharp. It's surprising. Every now and then, you come across them. One that comes to mind is Patricia Britton, who I was surprised to see is sort of trying to work her way up to convincing herself to buy one.
Yes. Well, it's good that the Hangouts are there.
And then there's Laurie Spiegel, who's now 3 times said that she desperately does.
Hello?
Mike hangs again.
Mike, is stalled again. Yes.
Next. How's your Vita? Your PS?
It's awesome. It's the perfect excuse. I bought it actually for my girlfriend's birthday. It's her Vita. So there is a time of day that's set apart for her where she plays on the Vita, but All the other moments are really tied up.
Okay.
So
Do you have to buy extra games for it?
Yes,
Or
yeah.
is it
Yeah.
not PS1 or something compatible?
No, but it's PSP compatible.
Okay.
But you'll have to buy them again, or if you bought, you can't use the discs from the PSP. So either if you already bought them in the digital media from the PlayStation Network store, then you can reuse them, or otherwise you'll have to buy them again. But the actual launch titles on the PS Vita are quite good actually.
What's in there?
Well, there's Uncharted. I don't know if you like Uncharted, but it's kind of an adventure action game that's really well done. And there's Rayman, it's a platformer. I like the beat 'em up stuff. And there's a Ninja Gaiden, is really well done. And then there's a whole bunch of other small games. There's something called Escape Plan, which is kind of a puzzler. Puzzler game where you actually use all the touch features of the Vita. It's really well made. Whether it's quite a nice collection. It's enough to be busy with for a couple of months until the rest comes out.
Okay.
And then there's like hundreds of PSP games that actually play more nicely because you've got the analog sticks instead of that PSP thingy that tried to be an analog stick but never was one.
Okay.
So they're much nicer to play also.
So you're really happy?
Yeah, I think it's an amazing console. And I think the price is amazing also. Having that for €250 is wow.
Okay, yeah, that's a good price. I don't look at stuff like this anymore. I just want to buy it. So it's like if a lot of people around me talk about it, I go and look at it.
Right.
Oh, there you are again. We talked about Gert's Vita, so that
PlayStation Vita.
Oh yes, you broke down and bought one.
Yeah, I got one for Natalie's birthday. Perfect excuse to have one myself.
Yeah, I seem to be having a Google problem because everything else worked, and then Google just said, "I'm not talking to you."
Yeah.
Actually, it said it was a DNS problem, but I'm using Google's DNS server, so hey.
Well, it's just another server. Might go down.
It's true.
Yeah.
So, do you like it?
I love it. It's really. I think it's kind of the portable console I've always wanted to have. I had the PSP. I played quite a bit before, but never really felt that comfortable with it because it tried to have an analog stick on the left hand side, but no analog stick on the right side. It always hurt my thumb because instead of having this inclination, you have to slide it, and you have to put pressure and slide at the same time, and this movement kind of hurt my thumb after a while all the time. And so that's not there anymore. It's the proper analog sticks, and then the whole package is just amazing. It's like when you see this home screen and you look at it, and it's like, how the hell can a company like Samsung copy the way iOS does their stuff, while Sony on a gaming device is able to come up with a touch interface that's unique, and that does stuff in a new way that they invented instead of just trying to copy stuff. And it's nice to have another touch interface that it is inspired by similar concepts, but things work differently. And it's like
except Samsung wanted to ride on somebody else's IP, right?
Yeah. It's like there's this thing of closing applications that I'm now looking for on the iPad because it doesn't have it. It's on the Vita. You kind of, it's like you tear off a page from a calendar. So you kind of slide it down from the top right corner, and then you just tore off the page, and the app is gone. And it actually feels very, very nice to do that. And now I'm on the iPad. I'm like, do I have to go to the bottom and double click and then remove this? And so So they did spend quite a bit of work in the interface, and it feels really nice. And the touchscreen is very responsive, and the resolution and color depth is amazing. So yeah, I think it's a wonderful gaming device.
Yeah, I had a PS2. It died. I was just as happy that it died, but maybe I'll give that a try.
Well, what I like about it is really kind of the portable based PS3 almost. It does kind of fulfill that that purpose that they set forth, and I think it does it. It's not a good idea to get one though, because you'll not get anything done anymore.
I'm not much of a gamer.
Thanks for the warning.
So it's a good thing we only have one for the family, and then we'll have to kind of fight it out. So, now it's my turn now, between the two kids and Natalie and me. It's there's enough time that it's tied up so that you can still do other stuff.
Yeah. I don't have that, so my self-formulation is not buying one.
Well, that's a good approach also.
That's like with World of Warcraft, which I'm not playing.
Yeah, I played that for a couple of months until Natalie told me that it was time to stop.
I won't even start.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I decided I am not allowed to play a MMORPG at all, ever.
You know, the weird thing about that is that, that's the feeling that I got from it. It's that while you're playing those, you're bored out of your skull. It's like, God, this is just so tedious. I'm doing the same things over and over again, but you still can't stop. It's a real addiction. And, but I still have to do this, and they're expecting me to be there for that raid, and I can still finish this off, and let's, just this little bit. And it's so totally pointless. Because, I don't know, it's like fetch quests, and after a while the story isn't that interesting anymore, and you're just kind of going through the moves and the motions. And it's like, you know that you're wasting your time. You just keep on wasting it.
Yeah, I got that vibe too, so then that's when I decided that really I'm not the right kind of personality to start this and stop this. So I won't start.
That's good. Yeah. So musically, what are you guys working on now?
I'm still working on blues.
I thought about something. I've never seen you play the Eigenharp.
No, you've only seen me sort of demo little things.
Yeah.
I should do something.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking, I'd like to see Mike play, stuff that he's doing, and get an idea.
I could possibly even do that with the blues. Like most of the stuff I do is owned. It's like standards and things like that. But blues you can just play, right? Yeah. You just do it. So I should commit to trying to actually put something up.
But even cover versions, I don't see there's any reason why not to do that.
Well, maybe not. Maybe not.
There's so many cover version videos of so many songs on YouTube. I think as long as it's not a company doing that, they're kind of very lenient about individuals recording those.
Well, I guess the worst thing they're going to do is you'll go there one day and it won't be there.
Yeah.
So I mostly do little medleys of older standards. And I find I do that because I'll learn one or two of the songs and then realize that I can easily transpose them into the same key and then just figure out a way to segue from one to the other.
Right. Yeah, that's a fun thing to do. There are actually whole bands specializing in that. Like there's this cover band here called Mr. Cover, and they have these medleys that go on for 20-25 minutes where they kind of chain 30 songs together.
Yeah. The Eigenharp actually makes that fairly easy to do.
I've never tried that. It's a good idea, actually.
Well, particularly if they're not fancier in terms of having a lot of accidentals and stuff. I mean, But even if you're doing it in, if you're doing it in chromatic, it's not a problem. You just play it, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then, actually, the blues thing is what got me actually standing up. And then I had to relearn all the songs I learned playing, holding the thing differently. Mm-hmm. Sort of like, I can't actually play that this way.
Yeah, it is interesting. I have that also. So I'm trying to now use a position that actually works in both ways. So it's kind of the Eigenharp slanted to the side. But the problem is when I'm sitting down, it's slightly straighter than. Oh, there he's gone again. So when I'm sitting down, it's slightly straighter than when I play standing up. And I do find that there are some things that if you play like this, is different than playing like that. So yeah.
I think that is interesting. For me, it's much more upright if I stand. Then I'm using it like a. But how about this contrabass thingies? Mm-hmm. Sitting, I more have it on my knee, which makes it.
Yeah, no. When I play standing, it will probably hang off here. So.
Oh yeah, you have it hanging. So yeah.
That I have this distance there. Well, when I'm sitting down, it kind of.
Yeah, and when I'm standing, I have it standing on the floor.
Okay, so then you stand up.
Yeah, and I use it like a contrabass.
Right. Yeah. Right. But it changes. It does change the way you play. Which is,
it does.
There are things you can't play one way, you can't play the other way.
Yeah. It's also, for me, it's also the problem to have both hands free to play, not have one hand holding it. One hand always wants to hold it, and I think it's a waste of good hands to hold the Eigenharp. So I still have little struggles to have it on my shoulder, mm-hmm. and not really holding it in place. Maybe I will make myself a strap to be able to strap it on my shoulder so it can't, go right or left, mm-hmm. but just has to stay there so that I can use both my hands and not, like grab it with one and play it with the other, which is, I think, not really optimal.
Your clock is doing its sound again, Mike.
I came back just in time.
I'm not fooled this time.
Okay. Dragica, were you talking about your alpha?
Yeah, about Gert said he is having his more straight up when he's sitting than when he's standing, and for me it's the opposite, because I use it like a contrabass when I'm standing and have it on my knee when I'm sitting, so it's more upright when I'm standing. Yeah, and I have this problem of wanting to grab it.
Well, that's why I use the strap. You just tighten the gimbal on it, and it stays where it is, pretty much.
Yeah.
So how do you play sitting down, Mike? Do you also lean it against your foot a little bit like I'm sitting now, or?
So do you have the spike between your feet?
Yeah.
I tend to have it further out, so it's more flat and on my lap. It's a very different position.
So you kind of rest it against your shoulder like that?
Yeah.
Right, which is totally different, right? Yeah, that does require you to relearn everything.
Yeah. I feel like I just bought a new instrument, right?
But that's
for me, and the strap. The problem is it's 30 made, so it's heavy, and my shoulders just aren't big enough. I have this feeling that there is just not enough shoulder space to rest it somewhere where I think it's okay.
This is something that I would like to try once also. It's kind of play the Eigenharp like that, since the surface is flat at the bottom. So
I like to do that with my Pico.
You will be able to... I've never done it, actually. And they all allow you to do that. So there are so many different positions to explore. It's due to the flat back surface.
Well, flat, we could start doing Eigenharps for 4 hands if we could find extra hands.
That's true.
Actually, early on, didn't Eigenlabs have a video of exactly that?
Don't
You
remember.
even can do instead of like on the piano where you have one person sitting here and the other here, you can have 2 persons sitting opposite.
That's true.
You know, like two rows for one person, 2 rows for the other, and 1 row which is in dispute.
It's a great idea.
That would be fun. I have to try that.
That's a great idea.
Well, and you could do setups where the 2 rows that weren't in dispute were wired together so that they had to collaborate to make a single note.
Yeah.
Something like
So-
like the breath pipe, but then
Yeah.
with the keys. So
Yeah.
That's interesting. Or have the row in the middle being something that's common and that drives
Yes.
the other rows, so that you kind of have to move to the middle row to trigger notes, and then you have this kind of.
Yeah.
That will need some experimentation, but I think we can find some nice setups with that.
Well, different ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds really like fun to do with a person, you know, like fun to do with somebody.
Definitely. And certainly
I guess
since
you
it's the
could
same
actually
scale.
build musical learning games as well.
Well, what you could do is someone plays it, and then it kind of remembers it, and the other side has to play the same thing. And it's kind of
Yeah, you
like
could do
this trying to up each other. Can you play the same thing as that I just played? And then
Well, I think you
Don't
could
start
also
on the
probably-
pong.
Yeah, no, I wasn't headed there, but I think you could build some kind of gaming platform out of an alpha.
But then,
Yeah.
if you do the Pong, then you'll have to. It's probably nicer if it's the other way around. It's kind of
Yeah.
each sitting at one end of the alpha and kind of doing this.
Yeah, I more thought like a breakout, you know, like you have this pedal and this shoots up, and you know you have to get the right key so that it shoots up on the right,
Right.
you know.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Well,
doing too
I'm
much
sure it
game
wouldn't take
stuff.
too long to Google ancient gaming platforms that had viable games on screens whose resolution wasn't more than 5 rows of 100 pixels.
Yeah.
I think there are quite a lot of them.
I'll take my. I have to write maybe some platform, and then I'll take my Eigenharp in the game space thingy. The last time they had 3 buttons, and they had to do something with 3 buttons. Maybe one evening we could make a game on the alpha.
Sure.
They have 3 hours to do something.
That would be cool.
Let's see what they come up with.
Well, I'm going to sign off now, guys.
Yes,
It's been
me
nice
too.
seeing you, and with any luck, I'll show up on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'll try to be there too.
Me too.
Larry's
Have a good
been a
day.
bit lonely, I think.
Well, it is sort of disappointing, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyways, good day,
Nice to
guys.
meet you. Bye.
Good day. I take it you have to go too, Gert.
Yes, I have to. Yeah. Okay.
So,
Bye.
bye.